the first thing you need to be able to do is you need to be able to tell me what a probability is, given like a certain situation. So if I'm talking about rolling a dice, how many outcomes total are there? Possible. You're rolling a dice, six-sided little box. How many different things can happen? Good. So 6 total things could happen. Now if I ask you what is the probability of rolling a 1, how many outcomes are possible where that's successfully happening? 1. What if I said what's the probability of rolling an even number? 3, 2, 4, or 6. So the top number is, let's say if we're talking about even numbers, the top number is the number of total outcomes that actually successfully do what we're studying. And then the bottom number is the total number of possible outcomes. That's how we would put a probability. If it was in percent form, if I said the probability of something was 40%, you'd need to be able to change that to a fraction probably in order to actually have it be useful and help you. And the easiest way is to just put it over 100. So that would become 40 over 100. And then you could simplify it if you wanted to 4 over 10. And then you could simplify that to 2 over 5 if you wanted to. But you need to be able to jump back and forth that way. Does that part make sense? Does everybody understand the core basics of what probability is? It's the number of favorable outcomes, or the number of outcomes that we're actually kind of considering, divided by the total number of outcomes that could happen. Good? Good. I'm going to jump odds really quick from there, because the difference between probability and odds. So probability is favorable outcomes over total outcomes. So in the dice example, if I'm talking about rolling a 1, it'd be 1 out of 6. If I'm talking about rolling an even number, it'd be 3 out of 6. If I'm talking about flipping a coin and getting heads, it would be 1 out of 2. There's one favorable outcome, heads over total outcomes, heads or tails. So that part I think makes sense. Odds are not favorable to total. Odds are favorable to unfavorable. That's the difference between odds and probability. So if you think about it, favorable and unfavorable, when you add them together, what are you going to get? Hopefully. When you add these two together, you're going to get the total number of outcomes. So I'll give you an example. Probability of rolling a 1 on a dice. We just talked about this already. What is it? Out of? 1 out of 6 is the probability of rolling a 1. The odds in favor of rolling a 1, we just have to consider 2 different things. How many favorable outcomes are there for rolling a 1 on a dice? 1. 1 is favorable. There's 6 total. 1 favorable. How many unfavorable are there? How many outcomes are there that are not rolling a 1? 5. So that's the only difference. When we're looking at that, probability of rolling a 1 is 1 out of 6. The odds of rolling a 1 are 1 to 5. Does that make sense? For every one thing I do, there will be 5 that are not it. That's the only difference between probability and odds. Does that make sense? Good. Let's talk about cards. Like a deck of cards. How many different suits are there? 4. Hearts, clubs, diamonds, spades. What are the odds? No, sorry. What is the probability that if I pull a card at random, it will be a heart? No, that will be if it were a queen of hearts or something super specific. But just any heart. Pardon? No, there's more than 4. There are 13 cards of each suit.
13 out of 52.
There you go, 13 out of 52. There's 13 hearts out of 52 total cards. 13 is the favorable number of outcomes. 52 is the total number. There's a much simpler way of thinking about this. Okay, everyone listening to me? How many suits are there? Are there the same number of cards in each suit? So what are the odds of picking 1? Any one of those suits. Well, how many suits are we considering? 1 out of how many total suits? Yeah. It would have been way easier to just tell me there's a 1 out of 4 chance of choosing a heart. Because they're all equally likely. 1 out of 4. So that's the probability. 1 out of 4. Morning. Can you get a uniform, please? What are the odds of choosing a heart? Now we're not doing favorable to total. We're doing favorable to unfavorable. Go. Not 1 out of, but it's 1 to 3. That's how we say it. We don't say out of. Out of means probability, which would be total. We say 1 to 3. The odds in favor of choosing a heart are 1 to 3. These are our favorable outcomes. These are unfavorable. And you can see if you add them together, if you add the two numbers for odds together, it gives you the total number for probability. So do you see how this would help you jump back and forth from probability to odds and from odds to probability? Hopefully, because we're going to do this. I'm going to tell you the probability that it is going to rain is 40%. Or 4 out of 10. Okay? What are the odds that it's going to rain? With the person next to you, quickly kind of try and sort out what might that be. Let's start talking about our thinking then. How many total outcomes are there? Bless you. How many total outcomes are there? 10. How many of those are rain? 4. So think about it. There's 10 outcomes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 4 of them are rain. And the rest are not. When we're talking about odds, we're literally just comparing the number that there are that are favorable to the number that are not favorable. So how many are favorable? 4. How many are not favorable? 6. And you're going to start to realize that in these kind of two outcome situations, it's just going to be the top number and the difference. Good. So let's go.